artists that influenced me as I was growing up as a teenager and learning how to play guitar, you know, and I never took a guitar lesson. So, guys like Eric Clapton, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Jimi Hendrix.
When the lights dimmed and the smoke cleared, one guitar kept echoing through the silence. Ace Frehley's. Tonight, we're not just remembering a rock legend, we're stepping inside the story of the man who turned electricity into emotion, chaos into music, and left the universe forever changed. Today, we gather in spirit to remember Ace Frehley, known to millions as the Spaceman of rock, a guitarist whose sound lit up stages and hearts. His passing leaves behind a silence heavier than any amplifier ever could. And yet within that silence, his music echoes. Bold, shimmering, cosmic. He once spoke candidly about Kiss, his inspirations, and his journey. And through those words, we glimpse the restless soul of a man forever chasing that next note. Ace was never content with mere imitation. He entered the world of rock and roll with raw hands and raw passion. He told stories of listening to guitarists who came before him, people whose strings whispered to him late at night, shaping his inner voice. He never leaned on formal training. He confessed he could not read music, yet he became one of the most recognizable guitar voices in the world. That audacity, that fearless self-belief carried him through storms of criticism and personal strife. In interviews, he spoke about joining Kiss, of responding to an ad placed by Paul Stanley. He recalled how they played Deuce and asked him to jump in. He said, "That's easy enough," and proceeded to pour his own soul into that riff. For him, Kiss was a vehicle, an engine for spectacle and sound, the makeup, the stage theatrics, the personas. But he always insisted, behind the smoke and the rockets, it was about guitar, about tone, about energy. He talked about writing cold gin in a subway car, inspired by what he had heard, by the hum of life around him. That song became a Kiss staple, marking early evidence that his voice would carry far beyond the stage makeup. Over time, Ace would open up about tension, about the tug-of-war between creative freedom and band politics. He spoke of feeling constrained, of wanting to push boundaries. He left Kiss, rejoined, left again, each time chasing that balance between collaboration and independence. He said that sometimes the only way forward was to do it himself. And so he did, with solo records, with sound experiments, with the simple grit of a man in love with his instrument. He also spoke of what shaped him. Blues, British rock, the emotional bends and vibratos of players he admired. He spoke of the guitar as extension of the self, sometimes fragile, sometimes defiant. He admitted nights of doubt, nights when he wondered if he had lost his edge. But he never quit trying. He loved the punishing schedules, the roar of the crowd, the moment when the string bends hit just right. He told stories of recording sessions in dark studios, of trial and error, of chasing a tone that matched what he felt inside. When he spoke of Kiss in later years, his voice sometimes carried soft regret, sometimes fierce pride. He would talk about moments when the band soared together, when the chemistry clicked. He would admit to the times when egos clashed, when decisions were made that bruised him. But always he asserted that those early years, when four dreamers in makeup dreamed up a spectacle out of nothing, those years would live forever. He said that rock is bigger than one person, bigger than any conflict, that music can transcend even betrayal. He described the sound of his own guitar, gritty, piercing, dramatic. He loved feedback. He loved sustained notes that refused to fade. He loved the idea that a solo could be a moment of transcendence, where time stops, breath is held, and the world listens. He told of customizing his guitars, modifying pickups, coaxing something unique. And on stage he embodied a character, a space traveler, sending rockets from his headstock and smoke from his strings. But listeners always felt they heard a man, a human touching the infinite. His influences were many yet personal. He spoke about hearing blues records in his youth, hearing notes slide and moan, learning by ear, memorizing riffs, letting them lodge in his blood. He spoke of the British invasion, of listening to guitarists across seas and drawing from them, molding their voices into a new signature. He once remarked that anyone can imitate, but the challenge is to find what no one else is playing. He treated his instrument as sculptor treats clay, bending and chiseling until voice appears. In his final years, when health forced him to silence many plans, he remained restless. He canceled tour dates, yet promised that the music, the spirit, remained alive. He worked on cover albums, reinterpretations, finding new ways to speak through old songs. He let fans peek into his list of 50 songs he hoped to reinvent. Even in decline, he refused to be museum. He was artist until the end. As tributes poured in from fellow musicians, from bandmates and admirers, the same word echoed: he was irreplaceable. Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons called him a rock soldier, foundational to the band's identity. Peter Criss, his brother-in-arms, spoke of deep sadness and love. Others recalled how they'd first heard him and knew they too would pick up guitars because of him. They said they practiced his solos, dissected his licks, taught themselves tremolo from the way he dug into strings. Those echoes prove that one man's voice can ripple outward in endless waves. Yet beyond the fame, beyond the persona, beyond the press, Ace was a human being with struggles, contradictions, dreams. He was addicted and sober, broken and revived, bold and fragile. He made mistakes, he lived them, and in speaking candidly, he offered strength to those who wrestle in darkness. He taught that talent is not guarantee, but that persistence, honesty, and refusal to settle are truths that endure. When I imagine him now, I see him standing in blue light backstage, guitar in hand, breathing in before the first chord. I hear the distant roar, and though he's gone, that moment remains. Because the notes he played, the spirit he emitted, the way he turned feedback into flight, all that lives on. In every guitarist who leans in late at night, in every listener whose heart beats with a solo, in the silence after the last chord. Rest in peace, Ace Frehley. Your rockets may have fallen silent, but your orbit is eternal.